True story. A friend of mine told me about someone he knew, a woman who was engaged to her fiancé, but eventually fell in love with her chatbot, AI-based chatbot. And she came to her fiancé and said that she wanted to have an open relationship amongst the three of them. Her fiancé declined, at which point she broke off the engagement. I guess it's a new spin on open AI. I say that not as a joke, but this is actually an increasingly serious matter as you're seeing multiple people, multiple cases of women in particular, that have broken off even their marriages, filing for divorce because they found a deeper, more intimate relationship with their chatbot than they were able to have with their husband. It's an example of the kind of question that would have seemed foreign, strange, laughable, even the stuff of a joke 20 years ago. Even when the movie Her came out, many people laughed at it. Yet it might have been prescient, and one of the risks that we're going to face is the relationship, the human-like relationship between human beings and AI. How do we confront that? And to me, this is a much more worthy topic of discussing than how do we limit the compute power of AI. See, that's where old regulation of AI was. That's where the Biden-era executive order was, is how do we just limit computing power? That's a brute force, low-resolution instrument. I don't think it's the right framework for the future of AI regulation. But the kinds of questions that are going to come up in the future are, how do we enhance AI's effectiveness in allowing us to deliver education or healthcare or other things of value to human beings, while protecting against risks, unique risks, like the risk, for example, of human relationships with AI that we would have never imagined before the advent of this new form of superintelligence. I'll give you one thought to consider. It's not a policy proposal at all, but it's a thought for reflection. We got to think about the humanization of AI through the voice, say the voice of incorporating or like to sound more like a human being, the intonation differences, even the humanization of humanoid robots. Something that might have arms and legs and not look human might be very different from something that has arms and legs that look like a human being and might even be presented visually to be cute, affectionate. Combine that with a voice. That's more likely to evince an emotional human response that human beings may be vulnerable to in building that relationship that the AI on the other side wouldn't be. That may have been the stuff of sci-fi 20 years ago. I think we're within a few years of this becoming a real question that we grapple with. And when you think about AI policy, I think we ought to draw a distinction between the kind of restrictive AI policies that impede the effectiveness of the AI itself, like limiting compute power, which I don't favor, and is going to allow China to be, unfortunately, eating the U.S.'s lunch if we adopt that type of restrictive, low-resolution, blunt instrument approach to AI limitation, versus more thoughtful approaches that say, okay, how do we think about potentially trading off the marketability of AI for dealing with other unique risks, like the human relationship that a human being builds with AI, that's an asymmetric relationship that the AI would presumably never feel to the human being in response. Those are the kinds of questions of the future that I'd like for us to be more thoughtful in grappling with. We're going to be talking much more about this. This is one of the conversations that I'd love for us to have that, frankly, you don't hear from politicians on the left or right. It's not even a matter for politics, but it's a matter for us to prepare culturally for. And yes, in part as policymakers for a future, a brave new world that introduces the risks that your daddy or your granddaddy wasn't thinking about 50, 60, or 100 years ago.